Hi, welcome to Carolina Crafting. I'm Jackie Jentz. Today we're at Rebecca Duffy's house. Rebecca is an Intarsia artist, which I, until this day, only admired and had no idea of how it was going to work. She started out as a carver as a young girl, went to wood turning as she got older, and then got intrigued with this new art that we'll see today. She also does wood burning. She's done her mantle, and we'll take a look at her stairs. She's put falling leaves down her stairs. And then we'll go down to her studio and watch her work.
For those who don't know what Intarsia is, it's a 13th century Italian art form which has been developed in the recent years as doing more of a shaping than they would have done back then. What happens when you do this is you come up with either a design or a pattern, and when you take your design or your pattern, it has to be divided into sections, almost like you do a puzzle. And you'll take parts of it and you'll decide where lights and darks, because in this particular mode of art, I don't use any kind of staining in the wood. I actually allow the wood to make the decision of what the picture looks like. I use the color in the wood itself. Currently I'm using aspen and walnut and western red cedar, but you can use any of the hardwoods, that would make this up. Just get creative to do it.
Okay, you did get your design,
Then after that, what you do with your design is you decide the direction of the grain that you would like the wood to go in, the color based on the shading of the picture. You can get your ideas a lot of times from photographs off the internet, or like in books or magazines, and even some artists are just doing the patterns.
I've seen patterns before, yeah.
So then what you do is you take your pattern and you'll have to make multiple copies, because to be able to do the pattern into an art piece, you need to break it down, and you're going to have to cut through so that they actually all will blend together. So like if you've got a dark piece and a light piece and a medium piece, well, you can't take that all from the same piece of wood. You have to go to your wood, and when you go to your wood, you'll decide, well, I like this color, and I'll pick that, and that's dark, and this one will be medium, and this will be light. And then you'll place the pattern on the wood. You'll glue it down on a temporary basis.
You just spray adhesive?
Yeah, that, or you can use some of those, like the sticks.
Oh, glue sticks, yeah.
Glue sticks. Because sometimes, even if it ends up where you don't get to where you can peel it off, you'll end up just sanding it off in the end. So what I do then is, you'll go to the saw and we'll cut each of the individual pieces out, and as you put it back together, you're making sure that all your parts are clean, that you remove any of the excess or burrs, like they call them sometimes, off, and clean the piece up. And then it's ready for, once it's all done, to take it over and start your shaping. You're probably wondering what this is. As you start to shape, sometimes you can't get these bigger pieces that want to stand out further to stand out, so you put risers underneath it as you start shaping it, so it gives it that cone kind of effect.
Okay. I noticed on this one you've started some, like the kitty's ear here is smaller and these are bigger chunks. This is where you started your sanding process?
That's right. And what happens is, as you're working with your piece, you'll start with what I would start with, like the lowest piece in the thing, and then work it up. Because if you start with some of your higher pieces, you may end up where you get your lower pieces too thin. So, but as you're working, you'll work the pieces, and then the pieces kind of direct you in some regards, because as they butt up against each other, you'll go around and you'll say, well, like here, I need to bring this mouth down, but it needs to be still maybe a little bit higher because of the distance between the head and the mouth in proportion to you. So then you'll take your pencil and you'll kind of design around it, draw a line around it to see how far it needs, and then when you sit at your grinder, then you bring it down to that line and you set it back in, and each piece has to be kind of played against each other.
And like this one's setting up so high, is it back behind it, or is this That system.
This one eventually is his paw, and because it would be like this if I was standing like for the camera so he could see, this would be further out if you were looking here than my chest or my face would be. So it's going to, and that's like even here, you know that the muzzle on the dog is going to be further out. So as you start shaping, you have to bring parts down. Like the basket itself will actually be further in front than
Is it
the
going to have
animals.
a wicker?
Oh yes, it's
Oh,
going
that's
to have
going to be
that.
so cool. I can't wait to see the finished piece of that one. This will be neat. Can we take through the next step where we start the grinding?
Sure.
Okay, Rebecca, your next step will be the sanding process. I noticed you're doing a cool bear. Explain what this is, and then we'll go to the grinding process so we can see that.
Well, the bear, similar to the puma that I was doing, that I've got over there that I've cut out, is now at the process where I've already done some grinding on it to shape it. Where pieces were once, as I can show you with this nose here, were very thick, you can see after doing some of the grinding and shaping that they become very thin, and depending on the position of where you would see like an image of like a person's face, in this case the bear's face, you can see that the mouth and the nose would be further out than the sides. So you want to shape things down, but at the same time the ears might be coming forward, so you've got to leave a little more depth. You know, so that happens. What I'm doing with this particular piece is going to be a sign that says, "Welcome to the mountains."
Well, that'd be good.
Yeah, since we live in the mountains.
Since we live in the mountains.
And it's a beautiful place to live.
Oh, it is. It's the only place to live. What protective equipment? I know this kicks off a lot of dust. I know I have a mask to use, so when you start, but you wear a safe. What do you use for safety?
Well, for safety, because of the new dust collection, I don't really use the mask as much as I used to, but I have a mask that I can put over my face. It brings in fresh air, it filters out all the dust, because this really produces quite a bit of
It has
dust.
to.
Also because the noise level of the filtration system, both the air filtration and the dust collection, I have to wear I can't even think. Ear protection. I can get one and just show it to you as it is. Something like this.
Oh, yay.
Because it has to keep the decibels so that you don't go deaf.
Right, you don't want to do that.
That's right.
Couldn't hear the birds sing in the morning.
No.
Okay, I'm going to let you get to work. I'm going to step out of your way and away from all the dust, so take it away.
Okay.
I know you're done with the coarse grinding. Now, what's next?
Once you get the shape the way you want it, now of course we haven't finished this because it would take all day to have you be here, but once it gets into the final shape, you go over it. I can change the grit of paper that's on my grinder to a much finer grit to clean up any of the marks that would be left on the wood, which you can see right in here because of having the shape of it, and it's such a big piece to try to use to get it in there. You go back over it with that finer grit, and then for a final, you sit with it and you'll hand with the fineness, like an 80 grit, or no, a 220 grit. 80 is the rough.
I was going to say, does the numbers get higher as it gets finer?
Yes.
Okay. I've always been confused about that.
I know. Yeah, you'd think 80 would be your softer one, but no, it's a 220. You just go over to make sure that all those lines are off, and that because once you put the varnish on it, it's going to show. You can see it. Now sometimes you'll want that in there, like in certain pieces. This particular piece itself, I'm going to rough it up a little because the bear's fur is going to be rough. So I'm going to take my Dremel and I'm going to put the lines in as though it was his fur, so that you'll see going out like that, his lines.
I actually have a finished product that you did. You did that down in his dog's.
Yep.
That is so that's how that got there. And then to get to this final product, what comes next?
Okay, after you've gotten it all finished and sanded, what you have to do is you'll take a piece of what is like a backer board, and you'll put your whole piece together, which you can see the backer board here on this, and you'll outline him, and you'll cut it inside the line on the backer board so that you don't really see the backer board. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And then that piece is all ready, because you don't want to really draw around this once you put the varnish on, because you're going to leave marks.
Right.
And so if you leave any marks, this way, if you leave any marks, you can still go back and hand sand those off. So then I take this and I will use a satin clear finish, because like I said, there's no color, it's just the color of the wood itself. And you take each piece and you set out your paper, you do it in a dust-free area. I take a sponge, and I wear gloves because I don't like to get all this on my hands, even though it's okay. And you just paint it on, all of it, all around, inside, the cracks, the sides, everywhere. And you let it sit for a few minutes, and then you just take a tacky cloth or stuff to wipe it off so that you've got most of the excess off. And then you let it sit, and you let it sit for 6 hours. And then you go back and you do that all over again.
It's time consuming.
And then, yeah, it's not something that you produce in a matter of a day. So, but then after the 3 applications and it's completely dry, then you can take your backer board that you've cut out and you make sure that everything is still okay and smooth, and then you just take wood glue and you glue it down. And you let it set up, and I usually let it set up for about 24 hours. And then what you can do then is when you turn it on the back, you can get one of those picture hangers, and you just figure out exactly where it would be good to hang it so that it will hang properly on the wall.
I made that mistake once. I just put the hanger on there and didn't test it. It was leaning to the side. I learned that lesson.
That's right.
I noticed on him the little tiny eye, the pupils in his eyes, were they like separate pieces?
Oh yes.
That's incredible, actually.
Once you've kind of got the shape that you want in the eyes, what I did was we drilled a hole in each one of the eyes and made a small, like, toothpick kind of out of the aspen, the white wood, and then just put them in there and then resanded them down so that they were flushed with the eye, and then the eye is complete.
That's so cool. And the different woods.
Actually, in this particular piece that you're looking at, there's the aspen is the little whites, and the darker pieces like here are walnut, and the rest of it is all western red cedar.
Oh, wow.
Now I use western red cedar, like I said, but you can use just about any color woods, you know, experiment sometimes.
It's so neat you don't have to stain them, and that's the color. It's the natural wood. I like that.
The color and the grain is what makes it, because as you can see even up in here where he's got that little puffiness around the eyes, the way the grain fit, it just accented it, it popped it out.
It did. That's so cool. That's the process, and that's
it.
That's it. Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed talking with you. I've learned so much today, so thanks so much.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you.